Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. It is the Daily Dish, and guess what? Today's show is recorded. Surprise! So if you don't see me saying hello to you, you're going to now know why. Anyway, so glad that you are joining us today. We've got a lot going on here at Saving Dinner. Look at my shirt's all weird. Sorry about that. We have a lot going on at Saving Dinner, and I want to make sure that you are on top of all of it, okay? Especially this Wednesday. This Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the Gorgeous Skin webinar. Here's the deal. I firmly believe at any age, we can have the most beautiful, glowing skin ever, because we need to look beyond the wrinkles. We need to look into the woman that we are, and our skin is our health calling card. It really is. And if you glow from within, you are going to glow outwardly. Skip the wrinkles. We all have them. So what? But your glowing skin, that's something, that's an inside job. That's something that you do have control over. And this Wednesday, at 7 p.m. Eastern, you're going to be able to get right into it. That's at savingdinner.com/gorgeous. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you get signed up for it, okay? Because I can't wait to share all of this stuff with you. What goes on top of your skin, yes, that's important, but also what goes on the inside. So we address all of it, and I'm going to take you there, and I think you're going to learn some really cool stuff. I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. The other thing that I want to share with you is our supplement of the week. Now, our supplement of the week is something that I take every single solitary day without fail. I take it first thing in the morning with my SAME, my Leptifix. There it is, Leptifix. We have this on sale. Now, understand that when your leptin, which is one of your hunger hormones, is completely out of control, so will you be. You will have no pump. You won't be able to pump the brakes on your appetite, because your body's going to be saying, no, I'm hungry. That's broken leptin. And the way to heal leptin is this. So what you do is you take it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, and it goes in and does the work. Now, how do we get broken leptin? You're probably wondering this. Well, it's interesting. Leptin is a hormone that lives in the fat, and as the fat diminishes, so as you're doing all this good work in your hot melt 30, for example, or your hot melt diet, or whatever it is that you're doing, your leptin says, whoa, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore, and goes, kind of sleeps on the job. Well, this wakes leptin back up and fixes it. That's why we call it Leptifix. And I take this religiously every single morning. If you get 3, you can get the 4th one free. And let me just tell you, it's going to last you a long, long time. This is wonderful stuff. Wouldn't be without it. And I don't want you to be without it too, especially if you've had these issues with your appetite just kind of being all over the place. Leptifix puts it back in check. And believe me, when that is in control, then you're in control. Amen? Cool. You can find this at savingdinner.com/show. Take advantage of this great sale. This is where you stock up and save big, y'all. Save big. There it is. savingdinner.com/show. I think that is everything that we have going on. Just want you to be aware that today's show is recorded, and Tuesday's show will also be recorded. I've signed up for a clinic that I've been doing, and this is the only time that they do it right at 1 o'clock on Monday and Tuesday. Thanks a lot, right? And so just for the next few weeks, I think it's every other week. Things are going to be a little bit wonky, but you know what? I can adapt. Can you? Yes, you can. Of course you can. So anyway, how are our Hot Milk 30 people doing? By the way, I want to know about that. I want to know about that. Tell me how you're doing in the comments. I'm going to come back and take a peek. See. In the meantime, did you see what Winston Churchill had to say? The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. However, the optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. You know, that is just another way of saying don't opt out of your life. Don't quit on yourself. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be rough. Anticipate that, but not in the place of dread, not in the place of, oh my gosh, now I can't do it, but in the place of, I know that this is coming, but I'm prepared for it. And I'm stronger than that because why is it, ladies? You got the grit. Don't have the quit. Grit is everything. I want every single woman who is in my world to have grit just coursing through their veins, because that is the way that you get to the place of living vibrantly. You don't by quitting on yourself. You just don't. You don't by just saying, oh, I just can't do it. It's too hard. It's too this, it's too that. You don't. And it's just not fun that way. And then it was always this repetitive pattern of starting over and getting motivated again and then not being motivated and then quitting on yourself. And you know what? It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It doesn't seed the life that you want for vibrancy. So one of the things that we're going to do, and we're going to talk about, especially for my Hot Milk 30 gals, and I saw this, I think it was in a post from one of our Hot Milk 30 gals who was saying that she's having a little bit of a rough time. And I made a comment on the post in our Facebook group that, part of the whole thing is the rough time that you're having is that you're trying to develop all these new and glorious habits, by the way. And there's a little pushback, your amygdala is not happy about it. Your amygdala is saying, you mean I have to change this stuff? And it's harder because it's new. It's harder because even as constructive and as great as it all is, it makes you have to think about, holy cow, I have to change all this stuff for real? What about, hitting the alarm all the time? And what about, just sitting on the couch and watching Netflix with a carton of ice cream? And what about all the stuff that I'm used to doing that also made me feel bad, by the way? Your amygdala doesn't care about you feeling bad. Your amygdala just wants you to keep doing things the same way. Don't fix it. Don't change it. Keep it the same. No risk attached to it. So while you're doing all these really cool things that are just absolute game-changing, life-changing things, your brain is going to put up a fight. But guess what? You can win every single time. And one of the ways that you can do this is to learning how to automate and embrace the repetition. Okay? We're talking about that today. So for all you Hot Milk 30ers who are going, yeah, I know about that. When she put that stuff out there and said, hey, I'm having a rough time, I could feel it. Okay, I get it. I know what that feels like too. Guess what? I know what it feels like too. So we're going there and we're going to talk about it and we're going to change the way maybe you look at automation and the way that you look at repetition. There are so many ways to fix this. There's so many ways to move the needle and change things up in your life simply by embracing repetition and embracing automation. Now, there are certain things that we just can't clock out of, right? That we need to be fully in and present with. But there's other things that we could just piggyback on, automate, and all of that. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Because the last thing I want you to do is to automate sitting there journaling or meditation, but automate instead just the habit of sitting there journaling and meditating. Does that make sense? In other words, showing up for it and then being fully present for it, because that's where the change happens. That's where new things happen in your brain. So remember this: repetition creates consistency, and consistency is making peace with repetition. Isn't that cool? It's making peace with repetition. Repetition's boring, and sometimes we just want something new and exciting. Henceforth, we get out our controllers and we start doing this with the controller so that we can watch something new on television, right? There's so many things to look at. And we don't want the same old thing unless we're binge watching something. That's why we are doing all of that. But if we can make peace with repetition, consistency always shows up. So let's go there. Um, and you know this because you were a child one time. Remember that? Do you remember being a kid? Anybody have a baby watching them walk? I mean, right now, we know Amber's doing that with Izzy. And I'll tell you what, Izzy's probably walk, 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 boom, falls on the diaper, gets back up, goes, goes, goes. Repetition is what makes a walker into a runner, making a runner into an efficient walker where you don't even think about it. We've talked before about this whole idea of when we're learning how to drive a clutch, remember? Ooh. Especially when you're in San Francisco in your little Volkswagen Bug on Lombard Street. Remember that? Woo! There's a hill for you, figuring that stuff out. But you do, and it's just automatic because you learn mastery. Mastery becomes part of it. So when you practice a skill over and over, it becomes easier and mastery is achieved. When mastery is achieved, it's second nature. There's this thing. So in pickleball, we do drills and we do different things like that. And one of the things that just really I glommed onto right away was this idea of muscle memory. Because when you are playing pickleball and you're bamming the ball back and forth really fast, you don't really have time. You can't really track it with your eye because your eyes can't move that fast. But you get a sense for it, and you and the ball are one, right? And it's just because you've practiced it so much, and they call it muscle memory. And you just learn how to do that. You just feel it and do it. That's what we're talking about here. That really sank into me because I started thinking about all the things in my life that are muscle memory, how you get up in the morning, how you do things, just the way you do things. I mean, you think about it, when you go to brush your teeth, you always pick it up with your dominant hand, your toothbrush, unless you made a conscious effort to pick it up with the other hand, the opposing hand. This is just how we do it. It's repetition. We've achieved mastery with a lot of the things that we do in our lives. So when we're creating new stuff in our lives, we have to allow for that gap of, this is uncomfortable. This is rough. This makes me feel a little wobbly, because it does, it does make you feel wobbly. But here's the deal. Think about Olympians for a minute. Think about them. Think about Suni Lee. You remember the gymnast? Remember how brilliant she was in the Summer Olympics? Michael Phelps. Think about our own Diana Nyad that we love so much. Each one of them exhibited mastery in their sport. And what we saw was just them performing. We didn't see the hours that went into it. We didn't see the hours of them making muscle memory. We didn't see all the practice that went into that. They had times of a lot of discomfort, a lot of learning, a lot of trying, a lot of things that they had to do over and over and over again in order to get the result that they were seeking. It wasn't comfy. It wasn't easy. You think they had some grit? They never quit. And that's why they were at the Olympics. Think about a ballerina. If you've ever watched ballerinas effortlessly dance, and if you've ever done it yourself, especially strapped on those toe shoes, can I just tell you, or point shoes, can I tell you how hard that is? I did it for a while, right through, I danced, as a kid all the way through high school. And I'll tell you, that was some kind of difficulty, and it trashed your toes. Let me tell you, it trashed your toes. And to make it look effortless, I never got to that place of making it look effortless. Every once in a while, I would catch a glimmer of it, but I didn't stick with it long enough to create mastery where I had the muscle memory to just do it, And the same thing with a concert pianist. They started out playing chopsticks like everybody else. But after a while, mastery overtook that difficult place. So we have to remember that too, especially, I do this with weightlifting. muscle that creates muscle memory like crazy. So when you're lifting weights, you're making itsy bitsy teeny tears in your muscle. And you need to give your muscle a day off from having all of those little itsy bitsy tiny tears, right? Just that's all you have to do. Just give it a day off. And the next day, the magic of muscle memory, by the way, is your muscle does remember that and it builds back stronger. It builds back stronger. And so the next day, when you've skipped a day to have get the muscle recovery, then you do it again and again and again. And henceforth, you start seeing, some pretty good guns. The guns show up. The gun show, y'all. The gun show. And the other thing that's happening too is what's inside your brain. And that is where all the magic is happening. Brain synapses are being created and meeting each other. Oops, right there, right in the middle. It's happening. It's happening. But as the building's going on, you don't see it, It's just uncomfortable. It's hard. It's rough. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? We feel out of sorts with ourselves. And that's why when we start to realize, I just have to build in this idea that I'm automating this. I'm automating this just the way I automated something that was a bad habit that I didn't want to have anymore. We got a lot of people who are on TikTok. And the big topic when I talk about the stuff that everybody goes kind of, I was going to say lights up about, which maybe is a little tongue in cheek, is quitting smoking. Now, talk about an automatic habit. You finish your dinner, you light up a cigarette, and you do this. Well, I always tell them there are 3 parts to breaking a habit. And, I have them using the L-glutamine, like so, in a dish so that they can start understanding that the L-glutamine will wipe out that craving for sugar too, by the way. So if you're stuck there, if anybody's stuck there, savingdinner.com/stop craving so that you can see the magic of what L-glutamine does to cravings, any kind, but especially with people with sugar and carb cravings and smoking cigarettes, just wipes it out. And when people start to see this, they're really excited about it. But if they're not going to break the behavior that goes along with it, in other words, it's quit sitting down at the table after dinner and with your empty ashtray and then just sitting there going, oh, no, the L-glutamine is not helping me. You got to change your behavior. You got to change your mind. You got to change what it is that you do. And that way you can start getting into making new muscle memory, new neural pathways, and start automating the new habit. And as we do that, it just 100% makes you feel better. So once it's automatic, you free up, get this, I just got this, this will blow you away. Once it's automated, you free up about up to or about 90% of your prefrontal cortex, 90%. That means you can think about other things other than that thing that it's driving you crazy, that craving that's making you do and say, and, maybe have a poor behavior because of it. If you've ever gotten in a car to go get your sugar your sugar fix, your cigarette fix, booze fix, or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. You completely change your behavior in order to support the addiction, because that's what a craving is just a red flag. There's an addiction happening here. Yeah, even with food. And food's tough because we can't just quit eating food where we can quit smoking, we can quit drinking booze. Food needs to happen. But, I have I'm sidebarring this, by the way. My view of the whole thing is that you go ahead and you do the very best that you can with what you've got. And then you make a decision about if you need to ban a food out of your life. If you just need to walk away from it and say, this is just not going to work for me anymore. The same way an alcoholic would with vodka or any other kind of booze. Walk away from the chocolate, walk away from whatever. Abstinence is not a bad word. Sometimes you just have to think about it. It's a personal decision. Don't let any nutritionist or anybody else ever tell you, you should be able to have something in moderation. Tell them where to go. I get really ticked off when people do that because they believe that, and it's not necessarily the truth. So when you free up that part of your brain, you give yourself an opportunity to learn something new. And you give yourself an opportunity to see things in a slightly different light. And you can focus on the exactness of what it is that you're trying to do and start practicing it. Have you noticed? They call yoga a practice, meditation a practice. They're practices. When you go bar class, they call that a practice too, because every single time that you do it a little bit differently, a little bit better. And that's what it's all about, right? You don't walk in and got it down pat. You walk in and you start at the very bottom with everybody else. I did a yoga class with my daughter today. We have an app on our phones, and we just started doing them today. She wanted to do, it was on a bar, it's on bar 3, by the way. That's the app that we use. And she wanted to do this flow thing. And I was like, oh, that's yoga. And boy, oh boy, that trashed 30 minutes. And I thought I was going to die, especially that side plank thing. Forget about it. But you know what? If I keep doing this and keep performing it and keep pushing past the place of discomfort and just owning that this is part of the growing process, I'll get there. I'll get there, and I will master that side plank, by the way. Now, you know what psychologists call this? They call it overlearning or overtraining. And not overtraining in a way that you're going to go need physical therapy afterwards, but overtraining so that you start to get it, so that you can start to get it. And scientists also say that there are 4 steps to automating. You want to know what they are? I'm going to give them to you. Here they are. Number 1, repeated learning. So Steph Curry, you know, the guy who's the Lakers fan, do you know his free throw is, what is it, 90%, 90.47% accurate? You think he might have done a few free throws on his own? You betcha. That's how that whole thing works. So what happens is he gets beyond mastery, because free throws are important, but you can always tell, you know, and I always say this to Mark when we're watching basketball, when they miss those free throws, I'm always saying, you know, how do you miss that? How many are they doing? They need to be getting these every time because they're professionals. And you'd be surprised. They're just not, you know, that's important. Number 2, make it just a little bit harder. And then what you want to do is bring it back to where you can do it. Now, this is something that they do sometimes in weights, kind of a stack that they do. They start you with, maybe you're going to do 3 sets. You start heavy, and then you do the second set heavy, and then you're almost to failure, and then you go lighter for the 3rd set. That's one of the things that you can do. So that makes it harder for you, but it brings you almost to failure, and then you're doing a little bit of stuff out of muscle memory, and it just really is bringing your muscle to fatigue, which sounds terrible, but it really does work if you're trying to build muscle. Number 3, shorten your timelines. In other words, work a little faster, race against the clock, even gamify it. So if you have something that you're getting ready to do or whatever, and you want to make it really, really fun, then guess what you can do? You can take this whole thing to the next level and say, if I get it to here, then I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. If I stay the course this whole week and I get my stuff in there, then my grand prize, I'm going to go get a mani-pedi. Whatever you want to do, that's gamifying it, by the way. You can do it with a friend if you want to. But when we do these kind of things, it just makes it a little bit more fun, isn't it? And number 4 is easy. You can stack and piggyback. That's what I do, because certain things will trigger a response to doing other things. As my coffee is brewing, I am racing the clock to get my dishwasher unloaded and to get a 4-minute workout in, right? I've also do 20 ounces of water, and that 20 ounces of water has to be gone before I can have my coffee. So I've gamified it, I've stacked it, I've piggybacked it, and I've made it just so that this is the way it is. And then once all of that is done, then I sit down and I have my meditation, my journaling, my reading, and, you know, everything just flows. And I have my affirmations. I've got my affirmations also on 3x5s, as in addition to having them in my journal, so I can just pull them out and read them as I need to. It just really helps. And it puts, what I have noticed is it's changed my whole attitude toward my entire life. It's made me a much happier camper to do things this way instead of just always knee-jerk survival. doesn't work. It's not happy. So you can have your routine and your rituals, but see how you do it from memory sometimes as you progress along. Don't push yourself to this place, but see how you do it from memory. I am a big believer, as you know, in 3x5s. And one of the things is I will take a 3x5 and I'll just make a quick checklist of whatever the next thing is that I'm getting ready to do so that I have it on hand so I can go look at it. But sometimes it's fun to just kind of see, what do I remember? What do I remember? Muscle memory. Muscle memory and your brain memory work together. So when we can is it automaticity? Is that how you say it? Automatic. I'm not even going to say that. But if you can automate, you can get anything done. You can move the needle. You can go to the next level. But you got to embrace repetition because consistency is making peace with repetition. And that's how this whole thing is done. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you so much for showing up today. Tomorrow will be also a recorded show, but I'm close by. If you want to talk to me, you can always find me in the Facebook Sprint group. That's facebook.com/hot melt sprint. All right? Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.